Hey everybody, and welcome to another Pallet Side Chat presented by ShipHero. I am Randall, Mr. Fulfillment, and we've got a very good topic to talk about today that a lot of times 3PLs, warehouses, brands that do fulfillment really don't give too much attention to. And what we're talking about today is compliance and cybersecurity. And when you operate in a 3PL or a warehouse environment, it's all too easy to just focus on the day-to-day tasks, getting inventory received in, processing fulfillments, and getting shipments out the door. But in order for that to really happen smoothly, we need to make sure that our systems and security are locked down, that we don't open up ourselves to cybersecurity threats and hackers. And I've got a very special guest today, ShipHero's internal experts, Diego, joining me. So thank you, Diego, for being here. If you could, just take a second, introduce yourselves, let everybody know who you are and what you're working on.
Sure. Thank you, Randall. Well, my name is Diego Marcovecchio. I've been working on cybersecurity for almost 20 years, and I've been with ShipHero for almost 5 as well. And here we've been doing a lot of work to improve our security posture and also to try and push the boundaries of cybersecurity in the WMS space in general.
Yeah, and like I said, that's something that not a lot of people put too much focus and time and attention involved on. But at the end of the day, if companies are opening themselves up to cybersecurity threats and attacks, I mean, that can cripple an operation pretty much overnight, where everything can come to a screeching halt if they don't have the right security layers and practices in place. So I'm hoping you can kind of walk us through some of these best practices, things that you would suggest people implement on how to secure their operation from modern day cybersecurity threats.
Absolutely. So I think this is a very important topic that is undervalued by a lot of companies. Recently, we've been seeing a lot of major retailers being compromised on different ransomware attacks or different types of compromises in their own supply chain, and those end up costing a lot of money to them. There are plenty of examples of some major retailers that have been hit and had to stop their operations for even weeks, costing them millions by the week. And it's really important we focus on securing ourselves to not be hit like that. In my opinion, cybersecurity has several tiers, and there are attackers like state actors, which it's very hard for an industry to protect from. Mm-hmm. But what you can certainly do is focus on some basic digital hygiene that's going to put you away from other minor attackers that, believe it or not, tend to disrupt a lot of industries without the budget a state actor will typically have.
Yeah, because it's not always the deep, affected things that people should be worrying about. Simple things like a password getting hacked or leaked, or leaving a screen open with somebody who has admin access or privileges. All these little details can get overlooked. So if you can, walk us through a couple of things that everyday businesses can do that might not have a budget to really defend against, nation states trying to take over entire corporate entities, but for the everyday mom and pop shops that are operating, what are some of the best practices that they can put into practice today?
Sure. Well, I am going to name one very public case that we recently had, which was the Louvre, the Louvre Museum, very case where people stole some artwork and disabled the security cameras, but they didn't do anything particularly sophisticated. They only found out that the password for the security cameras was Lubre1234. And there's certainly some work we can do to prevent that, because I think the very first step to locking down your credentials is using a password manager. You can do that. Some of them are free, like Bitwarden. It has existed for many years. It will help you generate secure passwords and fulfill the passwords on websites or applications on a secure fashion. And it's going to make sure you don't have Lubre1234 as your password on a system that has, critical access to your security infrastructure. So I think the very first step is moving in that direction. You can use a free password manager like Bitwarden, or you can even use a corporate password manager like, say, 1Password. That is going to help all your company handle credentials in a much more secure way. And it's certainly going to separate you from the bulk of people who suffer from the type of attacks we call credential stuffing, which are basically dumps on the internet that attackers use on services until they found a credential that's actually working. And because people tend to use the same password on different websites, if you reuse that password on your services and it's leaked anywhere, you're going to be vulnerable to those types of attacks. So I think that is the very first step you need to take.
It seems like, something like a strong password using a password manager is just very elementary steps, but I mean, I can't stress that enough, how critical it is to secure your network, because it usually does all start with passwords, how people get access into the system. And you're absolutely right. If you're just using generic passwords, password 123, it makes it so much easier for hackers to use that into these databases to gain access to your system. So it cannot be stressed enough to make sure that you lock down your credentials using password managers, not using the same password across multiple platforms. So definitely thanks for bringing that one up. What other good tips can we advise people to take action on?
So in the same space, because passwords have been such a problem for many, many years, the cybersecurity world has been trying to move past those. And now we have these little things called passkeys, which most browsers support. These are sort of private keys that are going to be saved on your device. And the advantage of that is that they are not going to be available on a different device. So passkeys are inherently more secure than passwords. You can actually back those up in your password managers if you need those to be available on multiple devices. And having a passkey on a password manager is better than having it, is better than having a text password that you're going to have to either remember or ideally storing on a password manager, but it can still be stolen. So then there's another step up on top of that, and those are hardware keys. Those are pretty cheap. You can buy a hardware key for 20 to 30 bucks on their basic tier. I keep mine on a keychain here, and this is where I store all my passkeys. So I just plug this on my computer, and nobody can access those passkeys except if my hardware key is actually stolen. Exactly. So that makes it incredibly more secure, and it's going to separate you from the bulk of people. And there's no such thing as perfect security, but as long as you improve your security posture, most likely other people are going to fall before you do. Yeah. So that is why I really believe on a digital hygiene approach. And then right next to all this password or passkey management, the next step is, of course, multi-factor authentication. I think this is a very widely known mechanism, but I don't think people understand enough how important it is and how much of a difference it is going to make on your digital life. So essentially, if you enable MFA or multi-factor authentication on your services, there's an over 90-something% chance you're not going to be compromised by an attacker. MFA is not perfect, but it does require you to enter a code or use an application to approve a login. So if anybody tries to access your accounts, they are also going to have to compromise your multi-factor authentication mechanism. And that is extremely unlikely, and it's going to require a very targeted attack to you instead of a generic and bulk attack like most people do through credential stuffing, which, like I said, involves getting a random dump of credentials from the internet and using those on different services. If you have MFA, it's very unlikely that it's going to go through.
That's totally valid, that living in the digital world that a lot of this business takes place in. I like how you bring up that point of having a physical passkey as well, because it kind of crosses that threshold of having everything stored online to enhancing that security with a physical key, but then having the multi-factor there as well really helps prevent other people, unless they have access to multiple devices simultaneously, which can really help intensify that security that businesses are looking for. So, I mean, you do bring up a lot of good points, but for the average business that is wanting to find out where some of their leaks may be, how would you suggest a company can go about auditing their security and their online compliance? Are there certain steps they should take? Are there third-party companies they could maybe hire to try and force an attack onto these businesses? Like, what can you tell me about how a company should audit their security?
Yeah, so there are both free and paid services for this. There is a free service I've been using for maybe 15 years, which is called Have I Been Pwned, which allows you to check whether your email or your credentials have been compromised in some sort of leak. And then if you find, for whatever reason, your credentials have been compromised, that is an important sign for you to rotate those credentials. There are also companies who exclusively work with the objective of finding these leaks on internal hacker forums, etc. And you can integrate with your service as a, say, WMS or really as any company that provides software as a service. And you can use these services to check whether anybody logging in actually has compromised credentials. So you can protect your customers by using these companies. One company I know treats credential checking and general security very seriously is SpyCloud.
Okay.
In the past, we have used their services to check whether our customers' credentials have been compromised, and I do recommend SaaS companies to use similar services to protect their own customers, because inevitably, when you provide software as a service, you don't really have any control on your customers' credential health. So I think the best next step is trying to protect them on your side as a provider.
That's totally fair, totally valid, that you do want to make sure you're implementing the best services, the best vendors that you can to help keep an eye on these things. And with us at ShipHero specifically being involved with supply chain, with WMS, I wanted to actually bring up something that I was recently informed of about what we've been helping spearhead here with the WMS Security Council, specifically for people in this logistics and supply chain industry, to help share this information and share best tips and best practices about cybersecurity. Can you tell me a little bit about the WMS Security Council?
Yeah, so we recently launched WMSSC.org, which is a security council specifically focused on the WMS space. And the basic idea behind it is that between WMS providers, we can compete on features, but we really should partner on the security side. So I do encourage people who work on the WMS space, if you are writing WMS software, to join us and have a safe space to get threat intel and to share general information about compromises and the attacks that could affect us as a business. Because lately supply chain attacks have been growing, especially the last 2 years. We've been seeing more and more attacks, and I absolutely think this is a space we need to cooperate on and not compete.
You're 100% right about that. There's plenty of WMS providers out there, and we are all making strides to improve operational efficiency, operational resilience. But the thing that we really should be focusing on and collaborating on is this concept of cybersecurity and security resilience against threats that are becoming way more advanced and way more targeted to supply chain and logistics companies. So this WMS Security Council is kind of a groundbreaking new development to help businesses collaborate, to help the WMS industry take security as a serious issue and be at the forefront to help protect our customers and in turn protect the broader supply chain and logistics industry. So definitely thank you for bringing this up. I know we are starting to run a little bit short on time. But as we continue to dive into this, are there any final tips, tricks, checklists, or other things, other advice that you would recommend to help businesses really shore up their online security presence?
Well, like I said, digital hygiene is an ever-growing list because digital attacks are also ever-growing. I think for your personal security, there's something I put a lot of focus on with my family and my friends, and it's separating your financial life with disposable credit cards. Lots of people do not know this, but if you subscribe to different services, you tend to put your credit card on a lot of different places, and some of them do not really handle that credit card information properly. So what you can do is use different applications like Wise or Revolut or different online banks that will allow you to create disposable credit cards. You can use those only once and then they get immediately canceled. Or you can also create a separate credit card just for the one particular recurring service, say Netflix or YouTube or whatever you pay for. And that way, if a service is ever compromised, you're going to be able to cancel that one and not worry about the fact that your money might be in danger because a vendor you used potentially years ago had your credit card data. And on the same region, I'm a very big fan of data transparency, and I focus a lot on privacy.
Mm-hmm.
So I do recommend people to use browsers or VPNs that focus on privacy themselves. I mean browsers like DuckDuckGo browser for your phone, for example, where you tend to visit a lot of ads from a random application or different pages that you get through a link on any messaging app. You can use a browser like DuckDuckGo or Firefox Focus, which will allow you to not store third-party cookies as desktop common browsers typically do, and you can nuke them all with a single button on your mobile, and that way your digital trail is reduced a lot. So that is something I recommend a lot to people to do on their personal life. And then finally, for industries, there is a simple but undervalued way of reducing your exposure to external attackers, which is isolating your connected operational technology on different networks. So having network segmentation on your devices. Think your warehouse, it's going to have security cameras, it's going to have scanners, it's going to have printers, it's going to have packing stations, and they all require internet. Sometimes toasters require internet now. And in those cases, it is important that you don't have a common Wi-Fi network for all of them. You should have a
That
separate
almost is
network for all
standard, it
your.
seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I typically recommend companies to have a separate Wi-Fi network for their camera devices, a separate Wi-Fi network for their packing stations, etc. I recall a very known ransomware attack a couple of years ago that actually infected uh, hundreds of thousands of cameras and fridges from people on their houses simply because they were connected to a public Wi-Fi network.
Oh my goodness.
This particular ransomware infested a lot of devices that were eventually used to send spam emails from, a security camera, which sounds ridiculous, but it was done. And you can prevent that by having isolated networks and private networks that are exclusively used for those devices and not networks people can connect to. Because if you cannot reach them, it is way less likely for attackers to be able to compromise those devices.
That, I mean, the creativity, that some of these hackers get into is just astounding these days. That especially now, this time of year, you bring up so many good points. I just want to reiterate the fact about the ability to use virtual credit cards, right? As we're here right on the verge of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and the holiday shopping season, so many consumers are going to be going to unknown websites to try and get deals. And oftentimes they're just plugging in their primary personal credit card information. But same thing on the business side. A lot of businesses will be using new vendors and putting credit card information online that who knows whether or not those servers are going to be secure, that using the one-time use credit cards, the virtual credit cards to enhance that security. And then making sure, that was something that I never would have thought of when I was running my operation, is to create independent Wi-Fi networks for all the devices that are going to be communicating online. So thank you so much, Diego, for bringing up all of these very critical components that helps create a more holistic outlook on cybersecurity and compliance. And, like I said, now that we are going into peak season, I just want to reiterate that security is the foundation of operational resilience. It's not always about just fine-tuning the physical aspect of the operation, but just making sure that you're also tightening up the virtual aspects and the security of your personal life as well as your business life. So again, thank you so much for being on the call today, Diego. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to conclude with?
Thank you, Randall. Well, if you work on the WMS space, please do visit wmssc.org, which is our WMS Security Council group. You can send us an email to join us and be part of our threat intel sharing space. And I wish everyone a great Black Friday. I hope you do a lot of shopping, and I hope you do it using disposable credit cards.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. And I do appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you enjoyed this session of our Pallet Side Chat and would like more of this content, please make sure to engage, drop some comments here and below, and reach out to your CSMs or to ShipHero if you would love to find out more. We'll see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.